Thank you so much for joining us. You are tuning in to a multi-platform broadcast of Nuestra Palabra, Latino writers having their say on the air. I'm Tony Diaz, the Librotraficante, author of The Tip of the Pyramid, Cultivating Community Cultural Capital. We are joined by Harris County Commissioner Lesley Briones. Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Mr. Diaz. Thank you so much for the invitation.
And folks might be watching this live on any of our social media platforms, or they might be tuning in to the video version of this on some of our allies, including fox26houston.com, or perhaps you are tuning in to one of our first platforms on 90.1 FM KPFT, Houston's community station. And if you are, we appreciate your support in the past, and we ask that perhaps you budget a donation to KPFT in the name of Nuestra Palabra, and you can support the station by visiting kpft.org or dialing 713-526-5738 and making the donation in the name of Nuestra Palabra, Latino writers having their say. Or maybe you're tuning into our podcast, which is available on all podcast platforms. And if you are, we hope you are texting that and sending that to your friends, teachers, and community members so that they can share that as well. Today, we have a lot to talk about with a champion of the community. She has been active in the community way before she was an official public servant. She is an Ivy League Chicana who has also served in the classroom and is now part of a Latina majority Harris County Commissioners Board. What's the official name? So how can I phrase that precisely? Because I want to make that perfectly stated for history.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz. Yes, so Harris County Commissioners Court, it has now a majority Latino-led Harris County Commissioners Court. So there's 3 Latinos, me, Judge Lina Hidalgo, and Commissioner Adrian Garcia. And this is also the first time in history that there's 2 women serving on the court at the same time in Harris County's history. And it happens to be 2 Latinas.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I thought it was just the first time it was 2 Latinas. This is the first time 2 women have served at the same time ever.
Yes, and the first time that a mother, I'm a proud mother of 3 little girls, the first time a mother is ever elected in her own right to serve on Commissioner's Court. And for Precinct 4, it's the first time there's ever a woman who is commissioner. So a lot of firsts, and I know you and I talk a lot about this, Mr. Diaz, but our goal is that there are no more firsts because we've made so much progress. So thank you for always being on the front lines for decades of really championing progress. And I'm happy to spend some time with you today.
I appreciate that. And obviously, you're here to serve all folks of Harris County. I think people will see that. But I also really appreciate the nuances you bring to the table, which will be some of the work that we're talking about today. And of course, we do want to talk about the gun buyback program that's coming up. You're a big champion of literacy as well. But let me ask you this before we dive into my list of agenda questions. You are now into your first term. How are things looking? Was it what you expected? Is it exciting? I'm sure it's a lot of hard work.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's better than I expected. So I'm tremendously grateful for this unexpected blessing and the opportunity that the people of Harris County have given me to serve. And every day I come, as a former public school teacher, as a mom, as a woman, as a lawyer, as a former judge, and trying to bring these perspectives to the table to make Harris County a place where all of our families have a fair shot. And as family is everything to me, right? And I believe that there's so much that unites us. We all want a better life for ourselves and our families. And I just am energized by what we're doing, whether it's public safety, infrastructure, public health, to really advance the ball every day. So it's even better than I expected. And I wake up with such a profound sense of gratitude every day.
What I also admire is that you bring your children to some of the events. And I think it speaks volumes to have the youth see women lead and just think that that's a fact of life. And additionally, it shows that, yes, you're multifaceted, you're juggling all this, doing it gracefully, but I think it inspires other folks as well to say, you know what, we can do it also. So thank you for all of that. I know that it's a lot of work, a big responsibility, but you're inspiring all of us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz.
I'm going to start off by a self-serving point. because you've been in the community so long, we really appreciate you recognizing the work of Nuestra Palabra over these 25 years. And that really meant a lot to our organization that you would recognize us at Harris County Commissioner's Court for the work that we've been doing. So first of all, thank you for that. And can you tell folks a little bit about how that plays a role in your work and how recognizing grassroots organizations is fundamental to what you do?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for your leadership. And we were thrilled at Harris County Commissioner's Court to recognize Nuestra Palabra and you and your team for your 25 years of service and really being at the front lines of championing literacy, Latinos, literature, art, and really getting our voices amplified in our community, and just everything that you do to stand up for intellectual freedom and diversity and inclusion. This is so important to me. From the literacy perspective, I was a former public school English teacher. My parents are retired English teachers. I think education, especially the power of word, is just fundamental to our civil society, and specifically making sure we're celebrating local organizations that are championing the work is so important, because it is you, right? The answer is you, the community. And by having these strong community organizations that are mobilizing folks, that are empowering folks, that are celebrating our voice, that's what it's all about, because we're going to continue rising together or not. And you, Nuestra Palabra, is one of these organizations that's on the front lines of really unifying and promoting. And so thank you, Mr. Diaz. We were thrilled to celebrate y'all at Commissioner's Court. And we welcome your partnership and any organization that may be listening, Precinct 4 and Harris County generally. This is an all hands on deck team effort. So thank you for the work that you do and being on the front lines.
Thank you so much. And I love to point out to folks who are tuning in that we've got teachers now who have gone from, I think it's still public service to work in the classroom. I'm a professor myself, to now serving as elected officials. And I have to point out to folks, like I love pointing out, is First Lady Biden, also an English professor at a community college. And again, both of you serve everyone, do it brilliantly, and do it with so much empathy, but also have that nuance for education, strong in your vision. And I say all that to bring us back to the big read. So Nuestra Palabra was very proud to get a grant from the National Endowments for the Arts for the Big Read campaign.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And the book that we wanted to support was written by a Colombian-American author, Patricia Engel, Infinite Country. And we want to thank you so much for joining us, for opening the doors of the Harris County Library, which serves so many people in the community. And libraries are so vital right now. But thank you so much for that wonderful event that we had to talk about it. But you've been very direct about representation. Can we go back to that? And can you tell us a little bit why it is so important for representation, and especially in literature? You mentioned that you come from your pedigree English teacher and reading instructor. How big a deal is it for youth to read books about their community or culture?
It is fundamentally important. And I forgot to mention my grandma in Paz Descansa. She was a librarian. So, I mean, literally books are this thread in my own family. But I remember when I was a teacher on the border where I'm from in Laredo, and my students would read works from Latinx, Chicano, Hispanic authors, and they could see themselves in the work, right? The way grandparents were described, or the multi-generational kind of approach that we tend to take as Latinos in the home. And so whatever culture one may be from, celebrating it through music, through poetry, through literature, to me is of paramount importance, because I think that that's part of connection, and that's part of the empathy that we learn to grow. And so I always loved teaching literature when I was a student. And I mean, when I was a teacher, I loved teaching to my students, and I love reading. It's my favorite thing to do. And it's just important. And I know that in my own kids, I have 3 little girls, as I mentioned, and the tablets, it's hard sometimes to to make them put it down. And so we just try to make reading time sacred in our home, because I just think it expands our mind and our perspective, and teaches us things and helps us travel back in time and into the future. And to me, there's nothing more powerful than words and books.
That's beautiful. And I didn't know that your grandma, tu abuelita, was a librarian. Oh my goodness.
Yes. May she rest in peace. Yes, she was. So I am. And then another fun fact, my dad was my mother's English professor. So literally, but for education and but for poetry, I would not exist. So I always tell my dad that if it wasn't, he was teaching British Romantic poetry that semester. So I always tell him, but for Byron, Keats, Shelley, etc., he would have never gotten my mother's attention. So I literally would not be in this interview today if it was not for books. So there you go. Whether it's love or life or mourning, whatever it is, I feel like literature just is good for the soul. And,
well,
maybe you'll get married as a result.
Well, but it is important to remind folks that the American dream through education is something vital to our nations, to our communities of all walks of life. And you're one example of the power that can come from that, because here you have this legacy of words. And of course, right now we're in a moment where there's a lot of turmoil with folks, there's a backlash against librarians. We've done so many shows about that. There's also been a curtailing of books allowed in classrooms. I say all that because right now Nuestra Palabra's focus is on encouraging folks to supplement their family libraries and also public libraries as well, and underground libraries. Like we have a Librotraficante underground library at Mecca. But I say all that because at the end of the day, as you alluded to, we still have power in our households to show our children that reading matters, to make it fun. And the last thing I'll say about it too is, I think we've all been fooled into believing that reading is boring. I promise you, I've gone to classrooms, and even some days I'm like, why am I here? I'm tired, etc. These kids are probably going to enjoy it. I've never done a classroom reading or read to kids in my family that they didn't love it. So I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm glad you're a testament to that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Diaz, and I'm with you. Thank you for what you do to protect our books and intellectual freedom. And as a parent, it's a struggle. You want to make sure what your kids are reading is age appropriate. So I get people's consternation. At the same time, however, as libraries, as society, I just am very much against the wave we've seen of folks wanting to ban books, because how are we ever going to learn from history if we're trying to keep books out of our kids' hands, from them having the opportunity to learn from different historical moments? So I believe that we all need to be learning from the good, bad, and the ugly, and then together again, moving forward, united, armed with the history, armed with the facts, and just it's a learning process, right? And we need to make sure we're preserving history and preserving intellectual freedom.
And thank you for putting it that way. You're building a bridge. You're really building a wonderful bridge to perhaps folks that are concerned about the curriculum. And again, our show, we're happy to have that dialogue, to talk to folks and work with them to walk through this. We're also very happy to be, through this Big Read program, donating copies of Infinite Country by Patricia Engel to the Harris County Library. So
thank you.
We want to spread that out there. Now, on more complex and hard-hitting issues, we do want to get to a special program that you're working on, which is the gun buyback program. Can you tell our viewers and listeners a little bit about that?
Yes, I invite everyone who's listening, please, to join us on Saturday, November 18th. Harris County Precinct 4, along with Sheriff Ed Gonzalez, along with the City of Houston and Mayor Turner, we are hosting a gun buyback. And what this is, thanks to President Biden and the federal administration, they sent some federal monies, and these monies had been put in a bucket for gun buybacks. We are taking action. We are doing a multitude of things, and I'm happy to go into more detail on some of the other investments. But again, as a mom, I have been the victim of crime several times. we need to be firing on all cylinders, no pun intended, to make sure that we are driving progress and improving public safety. So this gun buyback will be Saturday, November 18th from 8 a.m. to noon. It's going to be at Metro's West Chase Park and Ride on Harwin Drive. And again, with Sheriff Gonzalez and Mayor Turner, there's going to be gift cards amounts for different types of guns that are returned. It's going to be no questions asked. And again, this is one of the many levers we are trying to move to improve public safety in Harris County. And in addition to the gift cards that will be given for the guns, we've also gotten gun safes that we will be distributing. And so that will be key in keeping our families safe.
And this sounds like a great program. I do want to add, I think nowadays some folks están muy desanimados, they're disillusioned, and sometimes the response is to do nothing. We've talked about education. Now we're talking about gun safety. I like the fact that, like you said, we're doing something. Something's being done about it. You've got some amazing partners. Do tell us about some of the other facets, because the gun safety, the gun safe, that sounds really smart and, to me, innovative. I hadn't heard of that before. Tell us a little bit about that aspect.
So we want to not only be, if folks have guns that they do not want anymore, so we want to prevent these guns from either perhaps getting into the hands of youth, or they could be stolen potentially. So we're getting guns that are not wanted off the streets, again, completely voluntary, no questions asked. But in addition, we want to be giving out gun safes because unfortunately, data shows that approximately half of gun owners do not systematically use gun safety principles in their own home. And unfortunately, we've all heard of numerous cases where youth get their hands on a weapon and, are playing, and unfortunately it ends tragically. And in Harris County, homicides were the primary cause of fire-related deaths from youth ages 0 to 17. So it's not only the accidents, but it's also weapons getting in the wrong hands. And then we've also seen a spike in domestic violence-related homicides with firearms. So this is kind of if you don't need it anymore, let's get it off the streets. Plus, we want to be promoting safety, and everyone is, wanting to use best practices. The way we're safe with our vehicles, we want to be safe with our guns. So this is one thing. And additionally, we're working across the spectrum, investing in various public safety related improvements. So let me give you a few examples. One, my team and I helped advocate successfully for 6 new criminal district courts. Harris County had only gotten 1 criminal district court since 1985. Think about the population growth, plus, backlog exacerbated by Harvey and by COVID. So we have 3 new courts that went live this fall, 3 new courts that will go live next fall. And this was in a partnership between Harris County and the state of Texas. So that's one improvement. We've made progress in the backlog, but there's still more to be done. Meanwhile, we have given a raise to our law enforcement officers and our detention officers in particular who work in our jail. We've increased their salary by 12%, plus given a retention bonus to them to keep them there, to keep our jail and our individuals in the jail and our officers as safe as possible. Another victory is in Precinct 4, we didn't have the holistic assistance response team. Basically, what that means is when someone calls 911, there's someone in a state of crisis, homelessness, addiction, they are connected to somebody who has been trained in mental health services. And that is a win for that person, so they can get connected to what they may need, but also it's a win. So our law enforcement officers aren't spending their valuable limited time on those calls, but instead they're doubling down on the violent crime related calls that are far more urgent. And it's a win because we don't need someone with a mental health issue to be booked into our already overcrowded jail and then booked with a criminal case in our courts. So finding ways we can more efficiently and effectively leverage taxpayer dollars and law enforcement officers' time to drive better outcomes for safety, but also for public health. So we have been working on that. We've invested in a women's empowerment center, a jail for lower level nonviolent female offenders. 80%, Mr. Diaz, 80% of women who are incarcerated are moms. And again, the mom in me, if we're going to send our women back to their families and back to society as a better version of themselves, let's have a much more rehabilitative setting for them. And so Sheriff Gonzalez's leadership has been key in that. They get job training, counseling, and other services so that they can be poised for greater success. And there's been so many other investments, but I could go on, but I know our time is limited. But public safety is my number one issue, again, as someone who's been the victim and as somebody who is a mom of 3 little girls. We've made progress, but there's more progress to be had.
This sounds like a really brilliant approach that I'm glad we get to talk about, because maybe what makes the most news or is the most evident will be the gun buyback program, which I want to remind folks that is Saturday, November 18th, 8 a.m. at the West Chase Park and Ride. And just to remind folks that they can, I like the way you put it, they can get rid of guns that are no longer wanted, but then also perhaps get important resources like gun safes. But these other prongs, these other layers, they sound like really well thought out. You mentioned some of the statistics, the findings that have fueled these responses, and they're all very varied. I want to say some are subtle in that perhaps folks may not realize the pay raises of 12% for folks, but those to me seem vital. Can we dwell on that for a little bit? Who are the folks that get the raise, and how do you think that changes the system?
Sure. Well, first of all, also, if anyone is listening who may be interested in becoming a law enforcement officer, Harris County needs you. Our Harris County Sheriff's Office and our constables' offices, we need you. And so the truth is we have open, funded positions, and it's really hard to recruit the talent. And then even when we recruit the talent, for example, the detention officers who are working in our jail, it's a really tough job. And they burn out. And so keeping the wonderful men and women who sign up to be detention officers is a challenge. So I think of life as a both and. My husband says it's just that you don't like to compromise, but I think it's both and. So it's both a raise and a retention bonus. So if you stay after a certain number of months, then you get a bonus to keep you there working. And so anyone who's listening, we really could use your help. We want great, courageous public servants to come work in Harris County. And if I may pivot briefly in terms of other economic opportunities and jobs, I was so thrilled. Again, this is the former public school teacher in me. Harris County recently passed the largest investment ever in Harris County history in apprenticeships. So we doubled the capacity. So you can earn money while you learn a skill or a trade. And so for more information, please go to the Harris County website, or you can reach out to Precinct 4 and my team and I will connect you to the resources. But we're very much, trying again to focus on these multiple ways we can drive opportunity. We're also laser focused in increasing the participation of women and minority owned businesses with the work that the county is doing. And so we are, very much interested in making sure that all of our families can thrive.
And I think that is the teacher in you helping support the apprenticeships, because the only reason I'm on the air right now is because in college, I was able to get internships at WBBM News Radio, CBS TV, and then also some print publications there. But I learned in college as I was studying, and it would have been great to get directly paid for that. At that time, we had to pay the tuition credit for that. So this is huge, and it goes a long way. Thank you for supporting that.
No, of course. Thank you.
And for the last question, this is probably the most complicated one too. I'm excited about the additional criminal district courts. Can you explain how that changes the system and what it took to get these different criminal district courts to exist?
Well, first of all, system to me is the key word. So I think of, and I'll answer the specific question in a second, but I really think of it as a system. The front end of the system, the goal is for no one to enter the criminal justice system, right? Because we have such great education, great healthcare, great jobs. We get people out of the system to begin with. So I see it as we need to invest in the front end. We need to invest in the actual system, the law enforcement, the courts, the jail, and then the after, the post, right? How are we helping with reentry so that we're reducing recidivism and poising individuals for success in the next chapter after they get released or diverted? And so we've been, again, looking at it from the front end, the system, and the back end. But the courts, how does that help? What it does is there's, well, 3 and then soon 3 more. We're going to have 6 more courts that can help hear these cases faster. So this helps victims because they get their day in court sooner and get the resolution they seek. And it helps these individuals who have been charged, who under our Constitution are presumed innocent until they have their day in trial. And so it moves the cases along more swiftly, which also then has an added benefit of it corresponds somewhat to our jail population. And so these 6 courts are just helping to move the cases more swiftly, which will be great. And it was a long time coming.
That's powerful. We know you have to go. Thank you so much for serving, for bringing that intelligence and passion for community and education to Harris County. And thank you so much for changing the world.
Well, thank you, Mr. Diaz. I appreciate the opportunity. And anyone who's listening, please look out the county. We have, just in my precinct, which is the size of Rhode Island and bigger than 9 states population-wise, we have 55 parks, 8 community centers, 2 for seniors. There's so much free family programming that we invite you to. We invite you to get engaged, follow us on social media. And please, November 18th, the gun buyback. We are here. Public safety is a community effort, and we invite you to come to the gun buyback. And Mr. Diaz, thank you again for your leadership and everything that you do for our community.
No, igualmente, muchas gracias.
Gracias. Nos vemos pronto, ojalá. Y bueno, gracias por la oportunidad.
Thank you very much. We've been chatting with Harris County Commissioner Lesley Briones, talking about everything from gun buybacks to public safety to education. And of course, we want to thank our team, Rodrigo Bravo, who is our producer, as well as Roxana Guzman, who is our associate producer. And thank all of you for tuning in. This is Tony Diaz, Librotraficante, saying goodbye, and I look forward to seeing you behind the book. Thank you.
Hasta la próxima. Bueno, gracias. Con permiso.
Bye.